you talking about? Oh, the plate is like this big.
Softball fans, we're back. Another Here's the Deal, and I have a feeling this is going to be a great one, not just because I have the one and only Ches Severs with me, as well as Allie Martinez. We're all here, but Ches,
Hello,
I have
everyone.
a good feeling about today's show. Can you tell us why?
Because it's going to be great. It's going to be a great show because we've got Coach Kelly I with us, head coach from UCLA. What's going on, Coach? How are you?
Literally in my bedroom, having the opportunity to shout out with all of you. So it's great to see some of you in the softball world because I miss you all. So I'm up for any conversation that we can have. Let's talk softball.
I mean, let's first talk
Awesome.
about that plant
I love it.
and the tropical vibes that you're bringing.
I
That's
like
the
that
most-
it's called fake it till you make it. And it's don't look at really closely, but I kind of get this vibe at times that I'm feeling like I'm in Hawaii, and your perception is your reality, and I literally but I think seriously a big part of it is zooming, and this type of thing has become part of our world, and I'm with my family, so I give them the opportunity to have the rest of the house, and I put myself in a position to isolate and have opportunities like this. So welcome to my bedroom and my fake plant behind me, and there's a good vibe. There's a good
get
vibe.
a Hawaii vibe.
Yeah.
You have the plant and the
I feel like
sky
it probably
and the
smells
sand.
like sunscreen in that room.
Oh my gosh.
We should just talk
Thanks
about
for
this the
having
whole
me.
time. Who wants to talk about softball with Kelly I?
Right?
We're going to talk about the bedroom. Yeah, I guess I can kick it off. This has been a crazy time. No
doubt.
It's unprecedented for all of us. And I think it's probably going to be an unprecedented fall for a lot of coaches. So what do you expect the fall to look like at UCLA?
Well, I think the country is kind of getting back, return to play at different times, and then you've got California, and then you've got UCLA. So LA County is in a different boat. So I feel like we're definitely going to be on the later train. They just recently have shared with us that our process at UCLA is going to be back a return to play in phases. So football is first, and then basketball, and then fall sports, and then spring sports. So the idea is that they don't want 700 plus student athletes returning back to campus at once. The big focus is the student body. So being able to get back to campus is those seniors that are in labs and that are in certain things that you can't do virtually or through online courses. So there's different priorities. But what we're learning specific to sports is we're going to unveil at different times. So I don't have a timeline of when we're going to return. We're all itching, but I think football is definitely the most anxious to return, and basketballs and obviously fall sports. But for us, we want football to be a go, right? Without football, it puts all of us at risk. So the school is preparing. We have all types of protocol. We've had all types of meetings on what it's going to look like and how we're going to test and how we're going to prepare and clean and sanitize, and bottom line, take care of the student athletes and our ability to get back to doing what we love. So it's still an unknown because this is what UCLA thinks, but we still have the ability to understand what California is determining, and the governor down to the NCAA, the Pac-12, the counties, and then getting to the college level. So yeah, I clearly know as much as you as far as when we're actually going to return. But there's planning. I have an idea of what I would like to do, but I also, I say this all the time: good talent's flexible, and we're going to really have to practice that getting into fall.
No, I was actually looking at your roster, and I mean, y'all are just stacked. Like, I'm just going to put it that y'all are stacked. And my question for you is, what kind of impact do you think the returners will have on the 2021 season?
Oh, well, huge. First of all, it's always nice to be able to gain Bubba and Rachel back, which, I think that one of the coolest things is we've been on a roller coaster prior to what we're literally in right now, which is a huge roller coaster of what the world's dealing with. So many different things that we're managing. But in the softball world, in our little bubble of the world, we've been on a roller coaster from having a great championship run in 2019 and then losing, an impactful senior class and losing Bubba and Rachel that we celebrate the Olympic opportunity. And then having the season and getting it cut short. So we went on a high, a low, a high, a low. And then, I was really proud of what we were able to accomplish in 2020. But then to be able to get the news that Bubba and Rachel were to be able to return in 2021, put us on another just upswing of just the excitement. And a big part of it is, both of them said, Coach, we get to defend our title. So they're going to be able to, they were a huge part of that championship experience. Technically the 2020 year is what it is, but now when we return in 2021, technically we were still the last champion. So those girls get an opportunity with their teammates as seniors to be able to have an opportunity to come back and defend it. And so there's a lot of great, just when I say positive vibes, of the excitement. And I think more than just their softball talent, when you talk about their impact, there's an experience in a culture that we've created of just being able to play together and being able to have them finish together and be able to have this opportunity of overlap. And then not to mention the whole NCAA, regaining of eligibility. So I'm really excited because I love where we are. I think we have a very experienced group. We're going to get to repeat them and keep all of them a year longer. So I'm excited about what they're going to bring beyond just their softball experience, but it's the culture, it's the appreciation for the collegiate experience, what they're going to be able to teach the freshmen. There's so many things to look forward to, but straight up, I love the fact that Bubba and Rachel are coming back in 2021. Let's be real.
I have a feeling that some of our viewers may have a question about how they'll be eligible to play in 2021, and they wouldn't have been because of the 2020 Olympics. Can you kind of lay that out?
So in fall of 2019, we knew that there was going to be the Olympic tryout, and it was in October. So in fall, they were still part of us, and then they made the Olympic team. And once they made the Olympic team, we celebrated that. Then we realized that they were going to go on tour. So they were in school in fall, and they dropped out for winter and spring, and were no longer part of the 2020 because they were going on the Olympic tour. Mm-hmm. So with that, they were preparing for the Olympics, obviously, in 2020. So we knew that it's an Olympic redshirt year. It happens with all sports at the national team level. If they go on a tour, then they may have to forego their collegiate year, redshirt it, and get ready for the following year. As soon as we found out that the 2020 season was halted and then eventually ended, the Olympics was still, they were trying to hold on to see if they could still have Olympics in 2020. Then they made the decision to push that as well to 2021. So there were great discussions on what's going to happen. So, we were calling to be able to find out the NCAA, we have to get a waiver for them to be able to get extended classes. We had to get them into classes. There were a lot of details that we had to figure out how we were going to let them play in 2021. But the most important part was talking to the Olympic coach, Ken Erickson. And I have so much respect for the bigger picture that he has, because the Olympic team still could and will prepare as the Olympics was pushed to 2021. But he gave me a call and he said that he had to chat with the girls, and he was giving them the opportunity to decide. There's only 3 collegiate athletes, right? Bubba, Rachel, and Deja over at Arizona. And he wanted them to be able to have the opportunity to decide if they wanted to play their collegiate senior year, knowing that he wanted them to further their schooling, to finish it, be able to finish out with their teammates and classmates, and then still have the opportunity to prepare for the Olympics in 2021. So the fact that he did that and they all agreed to do that, I have so much respect for him looking out for what's best for the student, separate from the collegiate team or the Olympic team. Obviously, they're going to be in a great position to train and compete and prepare for the Olympics in 2021. But I was very excited to be able to see that we weren't going to miss them 2 years in a row because of the Olympic experience. So very unique opportunity, because in the history, Stacey Newman was an athlete back in the 2000 Olympics that had to forego a year to be able to compete with the Olympic team. So we've experienced this before, where athletes have to possibly redshirt a year and then be able to come back and compete. It was exciting for them to make the team, but it was also a pretty big blow to have both Rachel and Bubba make the team. So with it, a lot of conversation, a lot of protocol. Everyone lined up all the things that were needed in academically, athletically, NCAA legislation wise, and everything has come full circle where they're enrolled in summer school as we speak. They're going to start fall ball. And Coach Erickson had also said there's going to be times where I'm going to need them, and I'm like 100%. You can have them whenever you want, and then they can compete in the regular season and hopefully have a great opportunity to end their collegiate career. I also have girls that are on the national team, potentially on the Mexican national team too. So they're in the same boat of being able to train, potentially have to leave for opportunities, and then be able to maintain, their collegiate eligibility. And then hopefully the goal is to get as many of them in that Olympics in 2021 that have the opportunity to represent.
Who's potentially on that team?
Aaliyah Jordan. Aaliyah Jordan's on a is
Okay.
on.
Nice.
Yeah, she was named as being looked at, and then after her collegiate season or I think mid collegiate season, because I think the Mexican national team, and I don't want to speak to the bigger picture of it, but she was invited to be able to be considered, and Brie Perez was too. But Brie Perez is in a position where she's really going to focus on school. But yeah, there's different opportunities. There's others with other countries, but once again, this is, the Olympics isn't unfortunately a consistent 4-year deal. So there's opportunities for people to compete with other countries, and there may be more opportunities throughout the season for some of our girls to compete with a country in the Olympics in 2021.
Very cool. Shifting gear, recruiting. I mean,
Yep.
you and UCLA and your staff has always been regarded as recruiting the top level athletes. How have you and your staff approached recruiting during, it seems like, a dead period that keeps on extending?
Yeah.
And then also balancing out the eligibility extensions. How are you kind of approaching that whole situation?
Well, I think first and foremost, yes, a couple things. There are several committees that I'm on. I'm on a head coaches committee that represents all 32 conferences, and we meet to be able to talk about how we're going to have to adjust this recruiting calendar with this extended dead period. With we finally established a recruiting calendar for fall. We finally established a September 1st of the junior year to slow down recruiting. We're a very active, engaged association that is always trying to look out for what's best for the sport. So there's been a lot of work towards this recruiting calendar, and then this happens. So the good thing is we're meeting as a sport at the Division I level to be able to talk about what could we do to adjust this recruiting calendar, and we're scenario planning that if this then that, if this then that, and there's a lot of things that we don't know. But to answer that question, once again, you have to control what's in your control. Right now, the dead period is extended, and there's talk that it could be extended even further. And there's so many different reasons why that could come into play. But the bigger picture is, the well-being of everybody in this world and how we're trying to move forward through this pandemic. So recruiting is almost on the back burner because we don't know, right? When do we get out? When are the kids starting school? What fields are going to be available? Are people going to travel and invest in the time and money to actually send their kids to these events? I really feel for this 2021 class because there's so many unknowns. But with that's one part is the recruiting calendar and how we're working together as an association to get some type of adjustment to the model, still not knowing when we're going to come back. The second part is national level, conference level, everyone's communicating about what we believe would be best for the sport and trying to give those athletes an opportunity. The second thing is the NCAA allowed all the spring sport athletes to gain back that year of eligibility. And every program across the country is going to manage that differently. Basically, every freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior in a spring sport has the ability to be able to get that this COVID-19 waiver that this year does not count. They can have their year of eligibility back. So, for example, all my freshmen last year are going to be redshirt freshmen again in 2021 and onward. The NCAA allowed for the seniors to be able to have the opportunity to not have the scholarships that they currently had in their senior year count against the university. Every college is different. The rule was put in place, but then it fell on the college to determine whether they were going to fund that or not. So some schools are, some schools aren't. Can't speak to that. With that being said, UCLA did. Then you go to another level of everybody's going to have to figure out who they're going to allow to stay for that extra year. Those may get into conversations, and every school is going to be different on how they navigate, projecting the future on how many people are going to potentially graduate in 4, potentially could stay for 5, how you're going to navigate that space. Every school is going to be different. And how that affects recruiting, 100%, there's going to be, if you're keeping athletes and you're not graduating, then that's going to affect recruiting on the back end of the 21s and 22s and 23s. Because if you keep people in your program, there's not going to be a need to replace. Every program is different, and everyone now has to have that opportunity to look into the future and figure out what it is. And I don't even know my line. I have a pretty great roster, but I have no idea what my lineup's going to be. So with that, we're projecting a lot, and I think you're going to see a lot of change. And I think there's going to be opportunities where these athletes are going to have difficult conversations, find out what's best for them. The programs are put in a position now to figure out how to make this fit, knowing we all still only get 12 scholarships, those that are fully funded. And the seniors are the only ones this year that get the relief that have it not count against, but then next year and on, we all have to fall under the umbrella of being in compliance. So it's a puzzle. People are going to have a deep look into how they manage it and how they communicate. And it's school to school may vary on what they allow and don't allow, but I can't speak to everyone. It's just that we're put in a position now to really have to figure out how you're going to move forward with your current roster and incoming recruits. Does that answer the
Good
question?
stuff. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a complex question, and
Huge.
it's going to be different for everybody. And I thank you for sharing that perspective.
Absolutely. What else?
Allie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was. Sorry, I wasn't quite sure if you were going to say something, but I was going to ask you, I know you mentioned that y'all are having to redo y'all's whole, recruiting schedule in the fall. Would you say that you're going to try to advocate for more evaluation days in the fall?
Well, I can tell you that without it necessarily being public, there's just conversations about what could we do. And, we threw out the bottom line is there was two things. Do we expand the recruiting calendar for more opportunities, or do we keep it the same? And I think, there's discussions and, pros and cons on both sides. If you speak to our responsibility with our current schools and athletes and responsibilities, there's some voices that really talk about really taking care of your program and not creating more opportunities to get out there and bring things back to your campus that could affect your season. Okay. And then there's others that are saying, with this, we're losing so many evaluation dates, we have to open it up and give us the opportunity to create, evaluation days, contact days, all types of things prior to the NLI signing. So that's our big struggle right now is how could we open it up? So we've talked about things about, should we open up Fridays because we're locked into just 6 weekends of Saturdays and Sundays? Should we open up Fridays? Should we open up the evaluation window, sooner in August and September? Should we create more contacts prior to? All of this, once again, is scenario planning because we still don't know where we're going to be, right? But bottom line, it comes down to, can we be more flexible? And there are definitely voices saying we should keep it the same and understand that, the biggest priority is the people, those recruits. The priority is not for them to travel around the country and just engage back when we don't have a solution to how to manage this pandemic. And the schools should really focus on schools and our return to play and trying to keep everybody close to home. And we shouldn't have people traveling all over. So there are some really serious discussions about what this looks like, what the model should look like. And we as an association, the NFCA, are just talking to scenario planning. What could we do? So to answer your question, yes, more evaluation days sooner, more flexibility in fall, Fridays. We still have some things that were an important piece of how we created the recruiting calendar originally, which was less school days missed, being able to create, a Saturday, Sunday. So we weren't really advocating for that Friday to keep the kids in school. We can see that didn't really stop recruiting. People are still playing. I mean, not recruiting, but playing. People were still playing on Fridays. But I think we're still trying to figure this out to be able to have a voice that would eventually be voted on how we would want to adjust this recruiting calendar. So we're right now in the conversations, and as an association, I'm proud to be a part of the NFCA because we engage everybody in the conversation. We educate everybody on the pros and cons, and everybody has a voice to be able to share their concerns of recruiting, of their current colleges, of their just their ideas of how this model should move forward. So everybody has the ability to have a voice to create change. Where we actually land with it, it doesn't come down to just our voice. However, the NFCA has done an outstanding job that they know we come together, we have the conversations, we engage the country, so they know we come across as a strong voice because it's what we want. It's not just a select few that are making these decisions. So with that, we're right there. We're in the middle of it. And I can tell you, we've come up with 2 or 3 models to be able to talk to some of the changes. They're going to impact everybody differently. We've got semester schools. We've got quarter schools. We have people that are starting school early and want to end before Thanksgiving. We have high schools that are starting earlier and want to end earlier, or they have these, I don't know what you call it, different block schedules where part of it is at home and part of it is virtual. There are so many things that I promise you it's not going to fit for all, but we're trying to look out for the bigger picture of how I think even further without speaking not knowledgeably, but I know that people are looking to find that virtual platform to be able to have the opportunity to see opportunities for players to compete. But the NCAA is going to come in and let us know what we can and cannot do to watch all these virtual opportunities. So there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of phone calls and Zooming going on what we can and cannot. and I think with it, we all have to kind of just take a step back. And, the most important thing is I'm sitting here in my bedroom. We're all still stuck at home trying to figure out how we're going to get to tomorrow. But I say this often with my staff and every committee that I'm on. It is our responsibility to scenario plan as much as possible. So when we do get green lights, we're prepared and we're not all of a sudden reacting emotionally. Because when it comes down to recruiting, it's about the student athlete and giving them those opportunities to be able to have a platform to be evaluated to make one of the biggest decisions of their lives. Here's a little Coach I-ism. I think the two biggest decisions that you make in life are where you go to school and who you marry, because it's literally who you surround yourself with for the rest of your life. So I feel for them. I think that there has to be an attention to it. Although there's so many things that are out of our control, I hope that they can stop and make decisions on what they believe would align with them academically, in a location, knowing that softball is a small piece of it as we got it taken away. So your ability to make a great decision, you have the time to stop and reflect and figure out what the best fit is for you, separate from just the softball piece. And that doesn't make it any easier for them. They're like, thanks a lot, coach. I'm not getting seen, but I do believe, I know, they're like, thanks for that speech. That does nothing for me. But I think your ability to figure out and take a deeper look into having those conversations when we get to that point of having contacts, evals, and phone calls, some decisions are going to have to be made pretty quickly. But hopefully they're not in a panic mode and they're coming from a decision on what's best for you as a student athlete and finding the best school that can help you succeed beyond softball, since we don't have a real strong opportunity for them to create playing for the rest of their lives as an opportunity like MLB does.
I feel like you gave us a bonus Coach I-ism because you gave us one at the beginning of the show. Like great talent is flexible.
Absolutely.
We got two Coach I-isms, Coach I-isms in one show.
We'll just keep going, and that's like my girl will go, oh God, here she goes. We're
going to create a little content segment where it's just Coach I-isms. That's what it's going to be.
Look, Sarah, all you need to do is hang around John Wooden and Sue Inquist, and then you can start developing your Sarah-isms.
Why am I not? Why is that not what I'm doing right now? I got to hang out with you folks. I
was just on a Zoom. I need to share this. This is so random, but I'm sharing this just because I was just on a Zoom with Sue, and she jumped on, and it was a bunch of whatever. We were on a Zoom, and I'm sharing this with you. I think it's so funny. She is retired, obviously, as you know, but she still has a really strong voice in the sport. But she is doing a life dream. She's going to a Kelly Slater surf camp, like a dream camp. And I'm like, you know what? This is exactly like we're living through these trying times. And I was talking to all these coaches. I'm like, but this is what we have to look forward to in your retired life. Sue is literally going on a surf safari, which is like her life dream. Okay. That was a total tangent.
I mean, that's what makes the show great.
You might not get the Sue-isms right now. You're going to get a little bit of this, but still, I would strongly suggest Coach Wooden and Sue Inquist, great opportunities to be inspired. 100%.
Love it.
Yeah. I can imagine. I can only imagine.
I have
Sarah.
Kind of another follow-up question about COVID. Aside from recruiting, and we've been talking about all this, the same things with all these coaches. But it's kind of scenario planning, like you said, around recruiting, but also how is it affecting budgeting and scheduling and traveling? Are you even there yet? Do you have multiple scenarios playing out right now? Like, what does that planning look like?
Well, once again, this is, every school is going to vary, and we have meetings within our own conference to be able to just try to figure out what everyone's doing. But I think the country is going through a time where we're budget cuts are real, and there's things that are happening with every school that there's once again scenario planning, and some have it actually implemented where you have to readjust your budget. There's cuts that are happening. So that makes you reevaluate your travel. There's travel restrictions, for a lot of schools, meaning you can't go outside of a 400-mile radius. You no longer can fly. I'm going to be straight up. We have a travel restriction for us that doesn't allow us to go outside of 400 miles. So I'm not going to Florida, the ESPN tournament next year. And that was a big bummer. I got off the phone with ESPN and was just devastated. That was a great opportunity for us to be able to showcase our sport in a very competitive environment in a part of the country that we don't get to go and be a part of. And now the restrictions are real. I'm not able to go to Florida to be able to just play ball. So those things are happening. Budget cuts are happening. Travel restrictions are happening. Roster management is happening. And there's a lot of conversations about how people can manage these cuts. And, the biggest voice that I share with them is all of us. We're all talking to speak to the administration about budget cuts are real. Let us make the cuts within our program instead of implementing some of these restrictions that are just may not affect everyone the same, but it kind of handcuffs us into these corners. But it's happening. Every school is different. Every division is different. We're fortunate that at this point at UCLA, we don't have anybody that's lost any jobs, but we understand that's happening. I've heard it across the country. I think you're seeing a really high level of people that are retiring, and not just coaching, but in departments across the board where the timing is just a really unique time. So there's a lot of change happening right now. But to answer your question, budget cuts, real. Where you do that within recruiting right now, we're not spending, but we may have to get real specific and really get into some areas with some kids that may increase the costs of recruiting. But recruiting is constantly changing. The one thing that we're used to doing is knowing that Colorado is consistent, PGF is consistent. There's tournaments in Florida and New Jersey and Georgia and different parts of the country, Alabama, that have been consistent, that people have planned for in their budget. As those opportunities pass, we're going to have to figure out where we're going to be able to get those opportunities in the future. So recruiting is constantly an ever-changing budget it's need-based, right? But once again, scenario planning until we know.
Coach, you talked about kind of having a bigger picture on life and outside of just softball and what's happening with the university. Can you talk about kind of the discussions you've had with some of your athletes in regard to the civil unrest in the country in terms of fighting for justice and equality and peace for the Black community?
Absolutely. Well, I think, first and foremost, it was interesting. I'm going to just share a story with you that I've been in this softball business for so long, my entire life. I've been at UCLA longer than half my life. But and I shared with them all of the unfortunate, when this all started in, I don't have the actual date of when it started, but that weekend, everybody was very emotional. A couple weekends ago, right? We were all very emotional and distraught, and people were messaging out. And it was just a really interesting, emotional, difficult time for everybody in the country. And I pulled my team together after several discussions on Monday. And I started the conversation by being able to say, we live in this bubble, and literally, we call it this Bruin bubble, but the bubble is in athletics that you block out everything else that's happening around you to really focus on how to excel in the sport that you're playing. And I prefaced the fact that it was Championship Monday that we were having this phone call. And I said, in our world, we plan to be on the field in Oklahoma City playing for a championship. And if we were there, I would have said, even if this was all happening in the world, granted, if we would have allowed to have continued to play, we would have had to have blocked out what's happening in the world and really focus on what we were doing on the field to try to win a national championship if we were in that position. So I shared with them, I started the conversation by saying, my job is to block out things and get you dialed in on how to be the best softball players you can be in a moment. And right now, we're not in Oklahoma. Right now, we're not in the softball bubble. Right now, we are living in the real world, and we're experiencing the emotion and what this feels like. And I am also taking responsibility that we may have not taken as much time to be able to stop and educate ourselves on what's happening outside of the bubble. So I think this is happening for whatever reason that we're going to take advantage of this. And I had a great meeting with my team about talking about how everyone feels. I say this always when we start our seasons, that we all come from different parts of the world, the different parts of the country, communities. We have different religious beliefs and political, beliefs, and just as, what you do at the dinner table may be different than mine. But what we do is we learn how to come together as a family, as a Bruin family, to figure out how we are going to move together as a unit. And today in the meeting, we talked about how everyone feels and knowing, just to bring awareness. We weren't even here to educate on that first day, just awareness of how everybody feels a little different. And it was emotional. It was very, very real. I have a very diverse, cultured team, and everybody learned a little bit more of how people were impacted differently. And I'll be honest, I have people that were emotional and crying, and I have people that weren't really clear about what was going on. And I said, it's my job to be able to create the environment to have difficult conversations, to bring awareness, to educate more, to be able to figure out how we're going to move together, because we are just a small microcosm of society. We are completely we represent what's actually happening in the world. But I promised them that we would have these opportunities to come together and learn more and be more aware. Some people were very adamant about taking a stance, and some people weren't as adamant. But we wanted to make sure that everybody, once again, had a voice, was able to share what they feel. And I always give them a vision of where we're going, and we're going to create opportunities for us to be able to have those difficult conversations and learn more. So it was a great meeting. Like I said, a lot of emotion, a lot of awareness, a lot of education. We don't have to have all the answers, but we do have to raise our awareness to be able to understand what's happening, that we are very emotional about. So where we are right now is some of my girls have taken a strong stand, but as a group, they have had conversations on what we want to do as a program and how we're moving forward, and they're engaging each other. And then I have weekly meetings that I've stayed connected to them, just that we all get together and continue to make sure that I look out for my students and how they're managing a very difficult and emotional time in history. I mean, first we had the pandemic and we're all stuck at home, and now something like this happens. That is a really emotional, challenging time. So my focus right now is my student athletes, making sure that they're good, that they are being heard, that they're given the opportunity to speak their minds. I always want them, as powerful females, to be able to have a voice, but to also be educated with that voice on how it impacts others. So that's where we are. As far as what literally we're going to do next, they're creating opportunities to be able to have a voice on their social media platform. Also knowing they represent UCLA, but it is a time to be able to take a stand if that's what you're passionate about, and to be able to have a voice, which I think everyone should at some point be able to articulate that.
Yeah, without a doubt, 2020 is going to be a year for the record books. The gravity of this year between a global pandemic and the civil unrest is real, and it's emotional, and it's raw, and it's something we're all feeling.
100%.
But I can't help but ask if you've done anything fun during quarantine. Have you acquired any new skills or hobbies in the most trying time of the year of most of our lives?
I mean, right? The cool thing is, here's another Coach I-ism. Here it comes, right?
There it is.
Here we go. Write it down.
I know it's not what happens, because so many things happen, but it's what you do next that is your defining moment. So there's so many things that happen, and you can live in the, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, or the trauma of it, or the excitement of it. But it's what happens next that is your defining moment. So I've shared that often. And for me, yes, I'll never forget March 12th for the rest of my life, when I got the call that the season was canceled and we were just about to open pack. And I had a meeting with my team, and the emotion that hit, like, I wasn't prepared for that meeting. I prepared for all meetings, and I wasn't prepared for that meeting. And there was a lot of emotion on looking at my seniors and saying, like, I didn't even know what to say. But what we did next is we stayed together. So there's my softball group, and we had some fun things that we did on Zoom, which is all we could do. But for me personally, I took advantage of the time for me with my family. My son is a sophomore. He's 20. He's going to go be a redshirt sophomore at UCLA on the baseball team. But he all of a sudden moved out of the dorms, was back home. My daughter's 15, and she's a soccer player. She was a Galaxy Academy player, and the Galaxy Academy got canceled during all of this. It's super dramatic, but I got to be here as mom for her. Kind of met my husband again, who, he's a baseball coach. I don't get to see him a lot. So we've been hiking, biking. I'm going on late night drives with my daughter to re-engage. She's 15, and it's an important time for us to be able to have this opportunity that normally everyone gets when mom's in season. I'm pretty busy, and so for me personally, oh yeah, home cooked meals, eating it, just kind of taking off this hat and switching to that one. I'm fortunate that I have that. So a lot of fun things, a lot of movie nights, a lot of games, a lot of hikes, a lot of beach walks, a lot of great things that have come from this time. As far as my team is concerned, we have come together and we created a model for the spring quarter. And the one thing that I said that was really difficult is we're so used to being structured. We're so used to being in a schedule. And we may not like the schedule, getting up early and going to weights and being so structured with class and study hall and tutors, but you realize that you really miss that structure when you're out of it. So I created a little bit of structure with just our Zooms. Monday was a Bruin, we called it a Bruin Bubble Monday, where we checked in and would have alumni and have different opportunities. We didn't do a lot of alumni, but we had opportunities to be able to kind of just engage with the Bruin family, Tuesdays was a Bruin happy hour, and that was completely, I dedicated it to my coaches. I'm like, come up with a game, a challenge or something. And I had one moment where I had one of my volunteer assistant, Don Slott, who is, a 16-year Major League Baseball, vet. And he came up with a game show, and we came on wearing a tux and had this whole presentation, and we made him stand up, and he was wearing shorts, and we were laughing. We're like, welcome to the Zoom world. He was just wearing a tux with the upper body, but just light, fun, silly. Lisa came up with different games, but we just had happy hour be a fun time, just silly. Games and engaging as much, everyone unmute, and everybody do, fours up, and just doing silly things that we could, a lot of happy birthday songs over Zoom. So we created those opportunities. And then I had a Bruin Fierce opportunity where we really kind of looked at some of our championship videos or Bruin Magic moments to really talk about what we felt like and what we lived and what did you see, and really just continuing to engage the experience that we've gained as a program to not lose that edge. So we've had just a little bit of softball, a little bit of working on the individuals, and then like a wellness, and then we really had some fun. So we engaged in that, but I also had to give them some space to be able to let them focus on school and also deal with the fact that they were back home. Like, that's a challenge. Talk about seniors and juniors and seniors in college moving back home like they're in high school. Ooh, that was a transition for a lot of them. But fun is what you create. We miss being around each other. We talk about what we are passionate about. It's a challenging time. Like, we're getting used to this, looking at each other on Zoom, right? But we're missing that interaction of a high five and a hug. And now when we come back, we're going to have to figure out how we even do that. But I think once again, it's not what happens, it's what you do next. So for us, we've made a decision that it is what it is, but we're going to figure out how we're going to be able to be productive. So they're doing well in school. They're going to train. That's like the least of our worries, but their wellness is something that we've stayed in tune with. And we can have as much fun. I'm proud of them because our Zooms are our breakaway, and we were silly. And like just 2 days ago, I said, okay, I want everyone to share with their freshmen. We included the freshmen. So I said, share with everybody some positive moment of an away game or just a big moment or something to let the freshmen know what to look forward to. Like, give me something. Think about, we're in Florida, we're in Palm Springs, we're in Oklahoma, we're in Pac-12 games. Share something, like a memory. And Aaliyah Jordan starts and says, well, I remember when we were in, I think it was Aaliyah, or she's like, I remember on that one road trip where we got in the van after something and we were driving for like 40 minutes. And then Coach I finally realized we were going the wrong way and we were totally lost. Do you remember that? And everybody started dying laughing. I said, is that how we're starting? We're starting with literally a dig on Coach. And then someone else goes, yeah, I remember in Hawaii when she totally followed an Uber. And, we went back to just that locker room, like laughable time of just remembering the silliest things of what these guys remember, of what we love about being together, and then obviously some people talk to World Series experiences, but just that engagement is the vibe that we like to, and the culture that we like to continue to be a part of. And then I asked the freshmen to share what they saw when looking at us on TV, and there was just a great deal of excitement. So it's what you create. It's what you create. I mean, you could be really dialed out of Zooms and have people like this on your Zooms, or checking out of the video and doing all that, or you can really make sure that you're engaged, and we're trying to find a way. And I'm really proud of my team on how they've managed this. We've put ourselves in a position to do everything we can to stay connected.
I have to ask, did you have to play the 2003 World Series?
Play? What does that mean?
Did you guys know? Did you watch it? Because you mentioned that you had watched some World Series clips.
100.
I was hoping you were going to leave that one out. I was hoping you were going to leave it out. Just saying.
I just caught on to that because it was, it was so funny is I think it's D1 softball is they're now, the new thing is to show the game and then be able to have people on a panel talking to the experience. So Chaz, yeah. I need to tell you, we had all of us, Tasha, Taraya, Monique, Kira Garrell, like Sua, all of them. Yeah, we had to rewatch that, but let's just say it was great for the sport. That was a great, literally, if you all were to ask me the greatest moment that I've been a part of in UCLA softball, being able to come back from behind and beat Texas twice to get that championship was literally the most epic. And I'm sorry, Chaz. But, hey,
she is rubbing salt in the wound.
You know what?
Salt in the wound, Chaz.
Chaz, to be able to be on that College World Series stage, no matter what, that's real. And what you guys did, that's what it's all about, though, is being, because not, everybody dreams of being on that stage. on the real, and I can back it. Ches
Yeah.
got it done. Will got it done. So, and that's why I say it's one of the most epic moments in UCLA history. To do what we did was epic. Oh yeah, we broke it down, and that's going to show at some point. But sorry,
I knew
sorry.
it was coming,
I really did. I'm like, why is she asking specifically? Oh my gosh, my bad.
Yeah, all good. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Always a
Absolutely.
pleasure, and the information that you were able to share, your kisms, we appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hopefully we can regroup when we get back on track and talk about the excitement for the 2021 season, because I'm fired up. I can't wait. And I'm really excited for all of us. I say this always, I almost end a lot of my conversations with, until I see you back on the dirt, like, let's get back. We want to get back out there again. But in the meantime, so thankful for what we have, that we're all healthy and we're in a good position, for hopefully everybody's in that great place. The Bruins are, and I think with that, I say to all of you, thank you for continuing to move our sport forward, being able to give us the opportunity to be on this platform, and let's all celebrate when we get ourselves back out there so we can just do what we're really passionate about, and that's playing softball. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Coach. We appreciate
Bye.
you.
Thank you,
Take
Coach.
care
Bye.
too.
Told you that was going to be a good one.
I know.
Yeah, that was fun.
Always.
We got three. We
Yeah.
got 3 Coach I-isms.
I
I hope
know.
you wrote those down.
I know. Don't worry. We're gonna make some quote graphics out of
Those
them.
those are good quote graphics.
Well,
All right,
before
Chess.
we wrap up the show, what's next on FloSoftball? We've got the Top Club National next week, 14U through 18U clubs from around the country. We're going to see Georgia Impact. We're going to see Mojo. We're going to see Oklahoma Athletics, Texas Glory, Bombers. It's going to be it's going to be the best club tournament going on next week, period. There's not going to be another tournament that rivals it. And then we follow that up with the Triple Crown Texas 4th of July tournament. And then we're going to see the Battle, the Diamond Showcase, PGF Southeastern Regional Championship. And then we've got the Big Mama PGF Nationals in Huntington Beach, Irvine, Fountain Valley. So super excited about the lineup of softball that we have going on actually during the dead period.
Yeah, in case anybody's wondering, softball is back.